All right. Well, welcome back to my podcast. My name's Sheryl, and you're listening to the Girl vs. Life podcast produced by Girl vs. Planet, which is my main brand. So let's just jump right into it. So this is episode 2. I'm obviously not very far into this whole podcasting thing yet, but I'm giving it a shot. So I want to start out by talking about kind of just how I've been doing the week or month that I've been having. This week's been going good. I'm actually excited about the podcast, and I'm hoping that it's something that I can keep moving and keep doing and keep momentum going so that it'll become a good creative outlet. I'm still currently unemployed from my full time job, which is not ideal, but I'm continuing to plug away at it and we'll see what happens. So, in the meantime, this is giving me something to do, something to feel like I'm putting my effort into and kind of be something useful anyway. So, it is the first week of December. Thanksgiving was not that long ago. And I didn't do too much for Thanksgiving. I had a friend over. My husband had to work until the evening. So I had a friend over to help me cook food. We made this actually really good recipe for Thanksgiving sliders that I found on TikTok. I'll post the recipe in the description so if you guys want it, but it was basically like the Hawaiian rolls that you get and you take those and it's got like brie cheese and cranberry sauce and turkey and stuffing and it was basically one of those like Thanksgiving style sandwiches that you get, but they were just really good and it turned out really well. And I ended up using I wasn't about to cook a whole big turkey and all of that, but I did find at Walmart, you could get a frozen, like 3-pound turkey breast, just the turkey breast. It had no bones. So it basically came frozen. You pop it in the oven for a couple of hours and it turned out really good. And it was really good on the sliders. And it was also really good with just, by itself as like Thanksgiving Day turkey. So I'll put a link to that too, in case anybody else sees that as something feasible for them, only having a couple of people for Thanksgiving dinner. It was perfect for us. So that's what we had. And we enjoyed ourselves. And it was me, my husband, and a friend of ours, and we just started watching Christmas movies. Home Alone is my favorite Christmas movie, so that's what we watched, and we had a good day. So December is now here. It is Christmas time, holiday time, so that's kind of what's on people's minds. Um, yeah, so it's an interesting time because, like I said, I'm still unemployed and looking for jobs, and it's kind of frustrating because I know that it's probably not likely or it's not going to be easy to get hired around this time of year because it's the end of the year. People are going on holiday, people are out of budget. So I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's kind of sad, but I don't expect to find anything until after the first of the year. But, I'm still trying. So we'll see what happens. So today I kind of want to talk about what's been inspiring me lately. And that's important to me because, like I said, I'm in a time of transition. I don't know what's going to happen next in my life as far as my job and my career. I don't really have anything specific scheduled in my days other than just to go out and look for jobs. So, having something to inspire me and get me motivated right now is important. And so that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about today. And I'm going to start off by talking about everybody's on social media a lot all the time for the most part. Instagram is kind of where I spend probably most of my time now. And so I see all these things pop up in my feed. And one account that I follow is called The Every Girl. And it's a blog. They have good articles and everything. They put out like nice monthly desktop wallpapers that you can use, stuff like that. But I didn't realize until just the other day that they actually have an Every Girl podcast as well. And I got to looking at the topics of some of their episodes and was like, okay, this might be worth a listen. And I haven't really even been that much into podcasts, and it's hard to find one that continuously holds my attention, but I like having something to listen to while I'm doing other things. So I thought I would give this a shot. And I pulled up one of their most recent ones, and the title of it was The Number One Thing That Affects Your Health More Than Diet or Exercise. And it sounded interesting, so I started listening to it. And essentially, the gist of it was that it's basically connection with other people. That's the very shortest, simplest way I can think of to put it. And the podcast was really good. It was definitely worth a listen. I actually listened to a couple of more episodes and I thought that they were really good. One of them was it was basically talking about like a monthly topic or monthly curriculum for December, and it was about being present and just kind of focusing on what you're doing and paying attention to what you're doing in the moment that you're in. And I thought that was a good, really good one too. Another one that I listened to was about the girl that hosts it. She was talking about what she does as far as like her cooking and like the meals that she makes. And she went over this 5-4-3-2 method that she uses, which was essentially like 5 fruits and vegetables. I don't remember all of the rest of it, but it was good tips for what to eat and ideas for meals and how to avoid burnout when you're planning meals for people every single day. So definitely check out the Every Girl podcast. I thought it was good. I've been listening to more of them. I want to keep listening to it. And I'll put the link for that podcast in my description as well. So that's kind of something that I have been inspired by lately. I really like this podcast. It was good. And it honestly, the fact that she just did it as a solo podcast by herself, I thought was really cool. And it was good and worth listening to. And it kind of made me want to get back into podcasting again. So honestly, it inspired this. And here we are. So that's a good place to start, I think, honestly. And then something else kind of from my life lately that has been inspiring, but like just going off of that same topic about, I was talking about the first podcast that I listened to from the Every Girl, which was about connection and how that's so important to our health. And I kind of wanted to go into a couple of things that made me think about. So one is going back to Instagram, going back to social media, which we're all on seemingly all of the time now. And Instagram is probably the one I still pay attention to the most currently. And I had this account that followed me on Instagram, and I'm not a big account, so I don't get a ton of followers, but I've got a decent amount, mostly because I follow so many people. And I think that maybe half of them follow me back. Who knows? But I had this account that followed me, and I didn't even really think about it until I kind of started to see it pop up in my feed too. And I hadn't followed back because I didn't know who it was. And then I realized, like, after he'd been following me for a while, I realized that it's a friend of mine that I was friends with back when I lived in Indiana, it's been at least 13 years ago now since I lived there. And it was my friend Tom from Indiana, who I used to hang out with a lot. I was good friends with. Actually, I was in his wedding as a bridesmaid. But his account is cardio movie reviews. And so I didn't recognize who it was. I just saw this cardio movie reviews account and had no idea who it could be until I started looking at it, and I started realizing it was my friend Tom. And so I started looking at his content, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This was around Halloween when I was watching horror movies and getting into watching horror movies, which I like watching them. I don't just watch them at Halloween, but obviously it's a good time to watch them and get into the spirit of things. And that's what he was doing too. And so he started posting about horror movies and watching them and reviewing them. And it was interesting. And so I followed him and I reached out and was messaging him. And we kind of just kept it going. He continued to post about movies, and they were movies that I'd either seen or thought were interesting. And we seemed to kind of have the same taste in horror movies. I followed him, and we kind of just, I mean, ever since then, we've gone back and forth talking about horror movies at Halloween and TV shows and books and Star Wars, which we both are big Star Wars nerds. So we talked about that. And now he's watching Christmas movies. So it was really cool because I hadn't talked to him in a while. It's been so many years since I've seen him, but it was just kind of a neat little thing that happened that we reconnected and got this chance to talk to each other again. And it made me happy. I mean, he has this account just because he watches movies while he's doing cardio. He's lost a lot of weight, which awesome for him. Um, and it was just neat to see somebody have a purpose. I mean, not a purpose, but like, because he's got a job too, and this is just something fun that he does. But it was good to find some common ground and connect with somebody that I hadn't connected with in a while. Also, on the topic of connection, after listening to this podcast by the Every Girl, I started thinking about how I have all of these group texts or group messages on Instagram, different groups that I'm in. And they've usually started because I've been planning things with people that are friends and making plans. And so we start like a group thread so that we can all know what's going on. And some of them have continued from there, and some of them have lasted for years. And I thought about the fact that I have two best friends back in Indiana where I'm from, and I was in both of their weddings. One of them has been my bestie since I was like 9 years old. And the other one I've known since I was maybe 16, I think. And we've stayed connected that entire time. Every time I go back to Indiana, I pretty much see them every time I'm there. I stay with my bestie every time I'm there. I stay at her house with her family. And it just made me think, I was like, why am I not in a text thread with them? Do I not have daily ongoing chats with them? Because I would love to have an ongoing text thread with them daily, and why don't I? So I started one, and I'm kind of excited about it. And we've been talking, and it's been good to reconnect with them. So, hey, Every Girl podcast, you've done your thing. So, what else? Talking about connection as a topic for today, kind of that's something that's been inspiring me lately. And honestly, I hadn't even really thought about it until now, but being unemployed and I was working from home before that, and now not having that job, I don't have a scheduled medium of connecting with people. I was talking to people on a daily basis because I had meetings every day and I had groups that I worked with and I had meetings that I led, and I don't have that right now. And so connection is even more important. So going forward with that, like, talking about connection, what's next? So, thinking about like a project that I want to start. Well, obviously, here we are. I started a podcast and I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think you can expect to see from this. So, I started this and I think I'm going to enjoy this because it's mostly just very informal conversation with people. I'm talking to you as if there were somebody in front of me that I'm standing here talking to. So, that's how this is going. This is just a conversation for me. So, what can you expect from this podcast? So, going forward, if you like just an honest conversation about life, creativity, growth, the things that we don't always say out loud, then that's what I want this show to be. So, all of these things, the podcast and my friends' cardio movie reviews and my friends that I started a text thread with, and the podcast, what does all of this have in common? It all comes back to this topic of connection, this thread of connecting with people. Um, the first one of the Every Girl podcast that I listened to. And I just have really enjoyed these things lately, being able to reconnect with old friends. And I mean, I guess I just would encourage you, if there are people out there that you haven't seen in a while or you haven't talked to in a while, just take a minute, send them a text message, just find ways of connecting with them. I mean, this era that we live in right now of all of the ways that you can connect, I feel like we're just not 100% utilizing them to really stay connected with people, because life takes you different ways when you have, like me, a big part of it is geography for me because I live so far away from where I grew up and where the majority of the people that I know are. But I mean, that's just an excuse. And I mean, why not take advantage of these tools that we have? So, coming back to the podcast again, back to connection. This is a way for me to connect with people, with the world, with my creativity, and with myself. And I'm looking forward to that. So, what's coming up? I have some ideas for some guests I hope to have on here and some topics that I hope to talk about. And things are just constantly popping up that I think could be good ideas. So we'll see what happens and where that goes. But I'm also open to hearing what you might like to talk about or what you might like to discuss on here. So send me an email. My name is Sheryl, Sheryl. You can email Sheryl at girl, versus vs planet.com. So that's Sheryl at girlvsplanet.com. You can find me on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also, like I said, on my Instagram account, it's Girl vs. Planet. So just check that out. And let me know if you're listening, and let me know what you think, and let me know what you might like to talk about in the future. So that's really it for today. Thanks for listening, and thanks for spending some time with me today. And I hope you have a great week. I will talk to you next time.